welcome back. First, I need to state the obvious that yes, I did get braces put on my teeth and they do make me talk a little funny, so I apologize for that. Today, I really want to talk about homeschool test scores, or just testing with homeschool in general. I know this is a little controversial, but I did do testing with my daughter this year and I have her results here, so I think it would be really good to share with you all. If you don't already know me, I'm Jessica. I'm an ex-public school teacher turned homeschooling mom to 3, and here on this channel, I share everything from our homeschooling journey to parenthood to cancer prevention and everything in between. So welcome. I really would love the freedom of being one of those homeschool moms that does the unschooling thing and just goes wherever the wind takes you and you trust your child to lead in their own learning. But the truth is, I am just not one of those homeschooling mamas. I need that validation. I need to know that what I am doing is working and that I am not messing my kid up. And maybe that's just because I am new to this, or maybe it has a lot more to do with the fact that I was a public school teacher before this. But either way, I am just not at that free unschooling level yet. So I made what some other homeschooling families might consider a ridiculous purchase. I know. I ended up paying for a full year's worth of MAP testing for my kindergartner. We took the test 3 times throughout the year, beginning, middle, and end, and I am so excited to share. Her results are in. Now, let me just emphasize that I know a child is so much more than a test score, and I really wholeheartedly believe that. But I also understand the value that these test scores can provide in terms of, do I need to be implementing any interventions with my daughter or with my students, or do I need to be providing enrichment because they're advanced and they need that extra challenge? This was my first year homeschooling, and I really felt like I needed that validation to know that what I am doing is working, that I'm not messing my daughter up for life. That was always my concern choosing to go the homeschooling route. Okay, so before I show you the results, I just have to preface this by saying our homeschooling year overall, this kindergarten year, our first year doing it, was amazing, but we really did have some low points too. There were several times throughout this year where I felt like my daughter was just not retaining a thing. I felt like maybe I was going about this the wrong way. Maybe I chose the wrong curriculum. Maybe I should have chose the other one that I was researching instead of this one. If we switch curriculums halfway through the year, is that going to mess her up even more? Are there gaps that I'm leaving behind that if I were to put her in school later, that those teachers are then going to need to fill? And I keep having this negative self-talk because of my public school teaching experience, where I would get students who were homeschooled coming into my classroom who really had some serious gaps. So I almost feel like I'm traumatized from that. Now I'm homeschooling my daughter and I just really want to make sure I am filling every possible gap there could be. This year really has been an emotional roller coaster. But again, overall, great experience. We are continuing next year. But I did need that validation. So I did it. I went on, I purchased the NWEA MAP test. I went through homeschoolboss.com and I paid for the full year because I really wanted to know, like, where is she starting, where is she progressing to, and where is she ending at? So before I share her results with you, first, let me just explain what the MAP test is. MAP stands for Measures of Academic Progress. This is actually a computer-based assessment that I was required to give my students as a public school teacher 3 times a year to show their growth throughout the year. And it also tells me as a teacher and as a mother, if what I'm doing is working great, we can continue, or are there some things that I need to be changing with my teaching styles? I also really liked that this test provided results that put my students into a specific percentile when compared to their same aged peers. So I was really able to see, is my student performing on grade level? And if not, how far below their peers are they performing? Or on the flip side, how much further advanced are they compared to their peers? And lastly, I really love that this test is adaptive. And by the way, this is not sponsored at all. This is just my opinion. So what I mean by that this test is adaptive is that it's a computer-based program that when the student answers a question correctly, it'll then bump them up to a higher level question. If the student is answering a question incorrectly, then it's going to automatically bump them to a lower question. So it's really giving you a range of what they're able to perform and do correctly and what they still need assistance with. So we'll go ahead and start with her math results. There's the company I ordered it through, Homeschool Boss, and this is a breakdown of all of her math scores for the 3 times that we took it. So fall, winter, spring. You can see kindergarten, and then this score. This is like her raw score. So you can see right away in the fall when she took it in September, she got a score of a 165 for math. and that placed her in the 98th percentile, which is super awesome. And that, of course, means that she performed better than 98% of her same-aged peers, and that was in September. And then in winter, we took it again. I think it was around January, and you can see her RIT score went up to a 172, placing her in the 97th percentile. And I was a little concerned here because this looks like a drop, but they explained to me that because her RIT score is increasing, this just means that her same-aged peers must have done just slightly better this time than they did the first time, of course, and that's why the percentile dropped. And then this last time, the spring, this is what we just took in the month of May, the end of May. It might have been June, actually. Still kindergarten, of course, and then her RIT score went up to an 80, still 97th percentile. So the RIT score increased every time, which means she definitely learned something this year. Percentile, she is performing much better than most of her same-aged peers. So yay for homeschooling. Then it breaks it down into the actual areas of performance. So you can see operations and algebraic thinking, numbers and operations, measurement and data, and then the geometry. And those are the areas that she was tested in. Those areas stay the same for each of the tests. High, 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 high. And then there's a graph. I just kind of broke it down. I put the word math up there because it breaks it down. You can see this is the student score, my daughter, and then the red is her same-age peers. And you can see here, this was in the fall, and she scored well above her same-aged peers. This was in the winter, still above her peers, and then the spring, still above her peers. So really, I'm not as concerned with her against her peers as I am seeing the growth against herself, and she grew every time. So super proud of her. This is her graph. So this is nice too. They give you this little graph that you can print out, and you can see there's her percentiles, and you can see that she grew with each test. Oh, and then this part, I love this. This last time she took it, this is her her spring score, her 180, and it tells you that she is reading in the middle of second grade. Sorry, math, not reading. So this is super important because she just finished kindergarten. So she just finished kindergarten and she is performing at a middle of second grade level. And then again, here's the breakdown of each individual section on the math and scoring high on all of those. And then this little summary sheet breaks down both reading and math. So since we were just talking about math, I'll show you here, 97th percentile, she is performing at a second grade winter level for math. All right, now let's look at her reading. So when we look down here, this is that same report, just printed out on the same page. So we have her reading score here, they call it language arts. 99th percentile in the fall, a RIT score of 170. 99th percentile in the middle of the kindergarten year, and then 99th percentile in the spring. So this is that last one that we just took. So amazing every single time, super proud of her. She is growing each time. So regardless of what her peers are doing, she's increasing every time. 170, 182, 186, you go girl. And then this little summary, it has her, actually reading at the end of a second grade level. Here, let me move that down. End of a second grade level, that is incredible. She just finished kindergarten, for goodness sake. So super proud of her there. And then if you've watched any of my other videos, we also do a program called Reading Eggs. And on the Reading Eggs program, she's actually reading at a third grade level, which kind of matches this, right? Because this is end of second grade. I'll show you her reading graph. Here's the breakdown of her reading. So of course they put it into graph scores. The blue is my daughter, the red is her same-aged peers. So you can see far ahead of her same-aged peers. And even though I am a homeschool mom who paid for this test, this red graph, this bar graph, these are public school kids. I mean, if we're thinking about the bulk of students that are taking this test, it's the public school students. So yes, she is being compared to all students her age that have taken this test, but majority of those are public schools. So when you hear me say that she's performing better than her public school peers, that's why I'm saying that, because majority of schools that are taking this are public schools. Okay, and then her reading line graph. she's off the charts, of course. You can see she's in the white. She's not even in this little blue shaded area. So here's her reading score, second grade spring again. And then here's the sections of the reading: foundational, language and writing, literature and informational text, and then vocabulary use and functions. That was her best, which makes sense. She loves vocabulary, she speaks well, she writes well. And I think this has a lot to do, not so much with our homeschooling curriculum as it does with me just talking to her and having adult conversations with her. Well, I should say on an adult level as far as vocabulary goes. So I think that's been really helpful. Real quick too, I just want to show like a side-by-side. If anybody ever tries to tell you that homeschool kids don't perform as well as their public school peers, take a snapshot of this graph. I mean, look at this side by side. My daughter's the blue, same age peers in public schools for the most part in the red. She is far exceeding them every single time. And not only that, she is growing each and every time. And that is the most important part to me. So I know when you see these results, you immediately probably notice that at the very beginning of the year, she was already in that 98th percentile area, I think it was. And so the argument could be, well, your daughter already started off really high, so she really didn't show that much growth. But I feel in my heart that that's actually not true, because she has to maintain that high status, which you saw she did throughout the year. So now if I saw her starting in the 98th percentile and then by the end of the year she dropped to like the 60th percentile, I would be concerned. She's still above the 50th percentile, but I would have some concerns at that point. So I actually think it was more difficult and more rewarding to me to see that she maintained that high percentile throughout. Also, one more thing, we do homeschool year round. So she did take the first test in September, and we had already been homeschooling when she turned 5 in April. So I do still feel like that high baseline is a testament to what we're doing here in our homeschool. Like I said before, I know that our students and our children are so much more than test scores, and I know we don't absolutely need these test scores for that validation. I mean, we know as parents and as teachers that, you know, if we're doing something that's not working, we'll be able to spot it right away and fix it as it comes. But I just needed this validation as a first-time homeschooling mama, as an ex-public school teacher. It felt so good to see this in black and white. Again, we know in our hearts that what we're doing is right, but to see it in black and white and to see it compared to peers her own age that are in the public school system, I cried. I cried all 3 times. I cried in September when I got her results, I cried in January when I got her results, and I cried again a couple days ago when I got her final results. And it just feels so good. It feels like this is the validation that I needed to just keep on keeping on. I will be posting a video very soon about all of our curriculum choices for the upcoming first grade year, but if you would like to see what curriculums we use for her kindergarten year to achieve these high scores, I have tons of videos on my page. We use The Good and the Beautiful. I have a lot of walkthroughs of that on my page. We are also in a classical conversations co-op that you'll hear in a few of my other videos. And I also even do a model lesson. So if you look through my playlist there, I did a Good and the Beautiful math model lesson if you want to take a look at that. So thank you for watching today. I really hope this inspired you to just keep on keeping on, or if you are considering homeschooling and you're like me and you feel like you need that validation, or maybe you're a first-time homeschooling mama feeling that way, I highly recommend the MAP test. There are tons of other tests that you can do too, but they may be standardized tests where every single child is getting the exact same question, and they are comparing them to a score that they're supposed to achieve versus this norm reference test where they're being compared to their peers. So just keep that in mind when you're searching for other tests, and I will see you back soon for my curriculum picks for the first grade year.